I want to go back to something you said right when you started answering this question, which is that you talk to your students about perhaps not getting a specific job in this type of design. But I
Yeah.
want to challenge you on that. Can we somehow make a place for these type of students or researchers? Because I know virtual reality, for example, a lot of professors or researchers are using that as a basis of
Right.
teaching, and then it's turning into jobs and for companies. So I want to challenge you on this brief statement you made and ask, like, can we make a place for these types of students?
Hey, that's a really good. I appreciate the challenge because I've really benefited from people. I just say something and people say, "Is that really true?" That's always really helpful to me, and it oftentimes leads to really good insights. So you're right. I mean, I think about like, you know, will this as a form of where and how will this as a form of really vital design emerge? And I think there are some areas and it will emerge. I love smelling things. I think that there's nothing wrong with smelling for pleasure and connoisseurship and getting better at smelling. And there are companies that design games for that, like Centisphere is a company that does board games like that. I think that application areas I think are really promising are like education. I think we're understanding ways in which learning is supported through, multisensory approaches.
Mm.
I think that's really promising. I think the health and rehabilitation will continue to be really open
Yeah.
for design and experimentation. And I think all of these are really provocative and interesting ways of thinking about where olfactory interaction will occur in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, because this is something I know a few people like myself who have this strange expertise of designing with olfactory in mind. And now I'm like, where where do we go from here? Where do we go with this knowledge? I mean, there's also theme park design, for example, or
Exactly.
yeah.
Or, well, business startup. There you go. I mean, I think that's one area. We need more entrepreneurship in this area. There are
Yeah.
people that really interesting that we've been interviewing that Jazz and I've interviewed it's really interesting to see the companies that have survived since over 20 years because we look at a lot of companies that don't exist anymore, but there are companies around that like Inhalio or coming out of Exhalia in France, that they have a business plan that works. They're making it work. They have clients like Dior, that companies that can really sponsor really interesting research and have a strong motivation to sponsor, interesting commercial development in the area of scent. So there are companies that do it. I think identifying more application areas will help. The other thing that I think is really interesting with this area is that we're constantly learning more through research. There's tons of research coming out, all the like the AI stuff that you mentioned, but also, there's a lot of research coming out these days that questions what we know about or we think we know about the sense of smell. So change is afoot, right? It's like you said, that we're kind of living in this kind of renaissance period related to smell. And literally there is every month there's something interesting coming out that radically changes how we think about the sense of smell. And the more that happens, the more likely we are to find, interesting application areas emerging, new needs and understandings of smell emerging. And the more that happens, the more I think we'll see these opportunities start to pop up.
Yeah. And I find still I think we're working towards not being this way, but I find this field a bit siloed. So we're all in our own little bubbles, like for example, you're studying olfactory media and someone like Rachel Hertz, who we had on Internet Senses last time,
Right.
is neuroscience. And so I see this more and more that people are coming together to have conversations, and so then we all are
Mhm.
aware of what each person is doing. But I think this has to continue to happen because it's moving very fast, but we have to make sure we're not moving fast separately. We all have to come together and have these conversations in one room. And I think that that's something
Mhm.
that research is doing pretty well, is that we're coming together and we're having conversations and then trying to move forward. But this has to continue to happen, I think.
I agree. I think that the project that you were just involved with, the Odoropa project, was a really good opportunity for that to happen. And what was interesting about that project is it brought together really diverse groups of people working with, really coming from computer science and machine learning and things like that, and AI, together with cultural historians. I think that's really, that's really productive when that happens. I hope there'll be other, big opportunities for that to happen as well. And, I think that is where the sparks will happen.
Yeah. I think that's a great place to conclude our podcast. So
Good.
thank you so much for joining me today, and it was a really interesting conversation. And yeah, I'll see you soon, actually. So it was a very nice conversation.
Thank you, Sophia. And it was optimistic and uplifting. I think that's what we should aim for with all our discussions of smell. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you.